Okay, so let's get right into it. There's this one word that pops up in assignment feedback all the time. And honestly, it can be super frustrating. Today, we're going to crack the code on what your instructors really mean when they tell you to develop your ideas.
You know the feeling, right? You get your paper back, you're scanning through it, and you land on a comment that just feels totally unhelpful. It's a really common experience, but here's the good news. We can absolutely fix it starting right now.
And there it is, the classic. Needs more development. It feels so vague. What does that even mean? Should I add more words? Say the same thing but in a different way? It's the kind of feedback that honestly leaves you with way more questions than answers.
But what if I told you that this vague, little piece of feedback is actually a clue, that it's the key to a really clear plan? Well, that's what we're doing today. We are going to translate this instruction into a concrete set of actions you can actually use in your next assignment.
So let's reframe this whole thing. I want you to think of yourself not just as a writer, but as a builder. To develop an idea simply means taking your foundation, that one core idea, and building on it. Brick by brick. You add explanations, you add evidence, you add details, until you've built something that's really strong and solid. It's not about just adding more words. It's about strategic construction.
So, if we're going to be builders, we're going to need a blueprint, right? And that's exactly what this is. This is your step-by-step guide to building a powerfully developed argument that can stand up to pretty much anything.
Let's walk through this blueprint. First, you lay the foundation with one clear idea. Simple enough. Then you start putting up the walls by expanding on it piece by piece. You make those walls strong by reinforcing them with solid evidence. And then you connect everything together by showing a logical flow from one point to the next. You check for any weak spots, you patch them up, and finally, you put the roof on with a really coherent conclusion. See, every single step builds on the one before.
Now, knowing what to do is half the battle, but knowing what not to do, that's just as important. It is so easy to fall into these common traps, thinking you're developing an idea when you're actually just, spinning your wheels.
Let's just look at the difference here, side by side. On the left, you're the builder. You're adding details, linking your evidence, strengthening the whole structure. But on the right, that's just listing ideas, or worse, repeating the same point over and over without actually building anything new. So remember, development isn't about giving unsupported opinions or just making a list of facts. It's about actually constructing a solid argument. All right, theory is great, but let's make this real. How does our blueprint actually work when you've got an assignment in front of you? Let's take a look at a real concrete example.
Okay, here's our prompt, and the key verb here is, of course, develop. See, it's not just asking you to list types of renewable energy or to describe a city. It's asking you to build an argument for them.
So if we apply our blueprint, a really strong answer doesn't just say, hey, solar panels are good. No way. It introduces the core argument, and then it builds it out with these distinct pillars, like the environmental reasons, the economic ones, the social benefits. Each of those pillars is then supported with hard evidence, and, this is critical, it shows how they all connect to create one strong, persuasive structure at the end.
And now for a little inside scoop. When an instructor is grading your paper, what are they really looking for? Think of this as the final inspection checklist for that awesome argument you've just built. Look, your instructors aren't just counting words or checking how many sources you have. They're trying to trace your thought process. They want to see a clear path from one idea to the next. They're looking for depth, for detail, and for really strong links between your points. But most of all, they're looking for evidence of sustained, critical thinking. That is what development really shows them. So that vague feedback, it's not so vague anymore, is it? It's really a challenge. It's an invitation to become an architect of your own ideas. You have the blueprint now. So the only real question left is, what incredible, well-supported, and powerful argument are you going to build next?